with Leo and
Hello and welcome back.
Please hold.
Hello, welcome back. Hello and welcome back.
Please hold.
on hold with Leo and Roman.
Hello, welcome back. Hello, welcome back. Hello, welcome back.
Please hold.
Hi, Mom. You?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Good. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've been waiting for you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Listen, first time I heard about you, there was no way. I kept on telling people we have to pray and get Mo on the line because this,
Right.
what we need to talk about today, is very important. So thank you, like 100 times, thank you for agreeing to be here.
Well, thank you
I
for having
cannot.
me.
Great. So now, Mo, tell me now, Mother Wounds, where do you, I mean, I read the book, but just for people that are on the line, where do you get that? It was my first time even hearing the term Mother Wounds.
So, for me, I think the work started in therapy. I also didn't get the word the mother wound, but I got that most came from my relationship with my mom. So, from there, I was like, I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to find out what is written out there, what are the people saying. And that's how I came across the word the mother and was like, well, that explains what I'm going through. And I brought this up with my therapist at the time. And I said, well, the internet says this. And they're like, oh, yeah, that is the perfect term to describe what you were going through. Also, other things. I had blah, blah, blah. But my core wound was my mother wound. So that just the beginning of me delving into the work and finding out what is it that I can do, what neuroscience say about this, what the psychology say about this, what does the spiritual people say about this. And I think I just got so lost in that and I started writing about it and it blew up to where me finding the courage to tell my story about it as well.
I mean, I read your book. So you wrote a book, The Girl Who Survived Her Mother. I've got it here. So for those who haven't, you must read it. I read it.
Yeah.
And it was so relatable, so triggering, so true. Sometimes I share these things with my colleagues, my friends, and it's kind of like true, and we're all now interested in terms of all of this. But how does it come about? So where do we start? Like, I know we have mothers and it's different relationships. Sometimes it's tough relationships. And I mean, we all think we've got our own pains, but how do you start figuring out that this is about my mother? Like, what do you see? What are those signs?
I think for most people, what I get in my coaching as well is just that the relationship is not healthy, and that is the first sign. It doesn't feel good. You don't feel supported. You don't feel safe. You don't feel celebrated in the relationship. So that is the first sign for most people that this relationship just doesn't feel great. Like I can't even pinpoint what is wrong, but I can tell that I'm not my best self when I'm here. I do not, act in a way that I would like to act when I'm with her. I do not feel great when I'm with her. And I just here for a second there. And that is the first sign for most people. There are also other signs, and also how I do it is categorize it in terms of emotion, right? So because a lot of people would speak about, oh, what happened in your relationship that manifesting in this particular area. Let's say you had a mom that was physically abusing you, this relationship with people who are physically abusing you, but how I categorize in my work that it has everything to do with emotion, right? So it's shame, that is the biggest one for most people, because what happens with children is when the mom is inadequate, the mom is abusive, they intend that as, oh, this is my fault, this has to be my fault, I'm a bad child, I need to try to win her life, I just need to be. successful and buy her the house. I need to do all these things for me to finally be enough for her. That is just a insidious cycle of feeling the shame of not being enough or being fundamentally flawed, and how it can manifest the way we navigate those relationships. Um, you can tell when it's someone you're with, right, when you're in a relationship with them, and it can manifest in that way. Also, it present ourselves in our workplace, our take up space, or we just people who genuinely feel like we just, right, and it could also manifest as fear, right, and for most people that type of anxiety. And we hear that a lot nowadays when they say, well, I have anxiety and it's just like balance and I have to take these meds for it. But for most people, actually, from that relationship with their mom, where the mom was either physically abusive, verbally abusive, you could not predict her emotion. She was just very chaotic. And you got into this place of having to study her and if she's angry today and get to manage her emotions, and that into this place of just constantly being anxious. So how I categorize it is in that way, and I use it extensively in my work, where we focus on shame, we focus on the guilt, where we feel like you can't even spend your own money, right? Because you're supposed to send it to your mom, and she's so much have so much for you, and you just have this guilt around it and needing absolve yourself of that guilt by doing things for her. So that is another thing, the guilt. And then we have the fear, and then we anger, which most people do not allow themselves to feel in their relationship with them. They are okay feeling the grief and the sadness of that relationship, but the anger, it's very difficult for us to feel, because the moment we feel it, people are like, oh, but you be happy you have a right, at least mom's still alive. Oh, she did the best she could, and they come up with these rationalization around how your mom did her best, she's gonna die one day and you're gonna regret it, and you find yourself having to submit to that anger. But oftentimes the anger is where the real change happens, when you feel the anger, they say you're not allowed to treat me this way, like you are not, and because you suppress it, that's sort of dynamic of just being in this insidious cycle of I feel
I
like
mean, I
that was
wrote
a
all.
long answer.
No, but it's a good answer. So yeah, Ku also says they can relate. So said our society frowns upon the honesty and the openness of sharing our experience with our mothers. And I think that's what drew me as well to say, I think I did say I wondered this whole notion about, so I have boys, I have sons, I have two boys. So the obvious comment is like, when are you getting a girl? When are you getting a girl? You must get your own best friend. And I thought, is it really going to be a best friend, really? When I look at a whole lot of relationships with people and their mothers, are you really getting a best friend? Is the notion about girls are their mother's best friends true? Because there's a lot of things. There's, I mean, even in your book, you talk about jealousy. You talk about they feel that they sacrificed their lives, and you explain how your mom felt that she sacrificed her life for you guys, but you're not even the first child, but you have to hear about it all the time,
No,
so
that is the and people are lying. There's so many myths around mother-daughter relationships, and there's good PR of like you're just gonna have, and you're gonna have this great relationship, you met you, and all these things. And I think being under-mothered ourselves and sort of feel a certain void. Feel if I'm unable to have great friendships, then my daughter might just be able to solve that for me. If I could just go, then I could finally have a right. But what usually happens is when you have a daughter, and I think that the book about how many women who mothers are confronting their demons because you have this person in front of you that is going to mirror back who you truly are, right? How you speak to her, think about yourself. And sometimes that's a very triggering thing. And for many mothers, they're unable to confront why they feel the way they feel in regards to their relationships with their, and they just, push the anger towards the daughter. Now you are the problem, you and trying to shame you for all the things that they were unable to do. But the whole idea of a best friend, also try to advise against that. If we are going to have children, we must steer away from the idea of getting something out of them, because that's always the idea around when people speak to childless people or child. One of the very first things they say is like, "Oh, you don't want to die alone. You want someone deathbed. You don't want someone to take care of you when you're old." There's always these responsibilities that we place on you that are not even here. I mean, I listen to what you're saying right now about the, and I'm like, people are place a responsibility of an relationship child that is not even here already, like not here. Don't have a child, but people are, oh, if you just then that would be their responsibility. And I think as people who are consciously trying to heal and consciously trying to parent, that is one of the things that we stay away from. And also because it shames people. If I don't have a great relationship with my mom and everyone is like, you're supposed to be, then I might just start to feel that what is wrong with me? Why am I not best friend with my mom? Like, what are the things that I could do with that space again of perform so that I can be best friend? And it never.
Yeah, true. I think your line is not very clear, but let's see how we get. So, because I mean, you said it right. I mean, how do you place the responsibility of a young child to like a responsibility of an adult? Like best friend situation, we can't even keep our own best friends as adults. We can't even keep a
Right?
proper friend. You can't keep a best friend. I think the last time you refer people to best friends is probably when you are young. When you get older, lines get blurred, and now there's an expectation that this child is supposed to be there to you. What I sometimes do see is that maybe when you guys get older, and maybe there's some you can relate in terms of adult problems, like it works, but it doesn't really work all the time. So, but I want to come to the guilt, because I think that's what happens even when you are younger. Even when you're younger, it's like when your mom says things, you believe them. When they tell you you're not pretty, or why are you so fat, or, how does that work? So, how does it manifest actually?
Yeah. No, I didn't get that question there. You froze a little bit. Do you mind repeating it?
So I was referring to the guilt part of it in the relationship with your mother. So not wanting to, so when they say things to you that you believe and you really want to probably not say back. So they tell you, why do you look so fat? Why do you look this way? Oh, you're never going to make it in marriage because you're so stubborn. And, you live with that. And, I don't know. And I think
Yeah,
you've
that
said
is
it in the book
absolutely
as
true.
well.
Good. I sometimes I say, and also I also talk about my relationship with my dad, and I say that I feel like sometimes had I not had my dad, I would have, I don't know, I don't think to school. I don't think I would have studied. I don't think I would be any of the things that I am today, because my mom was like, the marriage, this is what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to act this way so that someone choose you and marry you, right? And so much of the indoctrination was around that. And this is also something that I teach around the social motherhood, that a lot of us have that because we exist in a patriarchal society, right? And And a lot of women had to internalize this patriarchy that, men are the head and they are smarter by just mere fact of being men. Like, they don't even have to try. They don't even have to try. By just being men,
No.
they're smarter, they're born leaders, they're whatnots, and you're supposed to be less than them. Maneuver the world in that sense of, oh, I'm just less than, right? And my mom was that perpetuator in my family of, you are the woman, how you're supposed to carry yourself, but also projecting a lot around her own body image issue onto me, around her own feelings around her face on me. Because I write in the book about how my mom was the first person to tell me anything, and she would say this over and over to a point where I started believing it. And even when things in my life, and then I would look at the other things that I'm not, the things that I'm not achieving, and going, see, you will never amount to anything, and never recognizing that I'm doing that are great, right? Because that voice had become my inner critic, and all the time. And I also write about what that was the constant critic, like, you will never amount to anything. You will never
Yeah.
amount to anything. And I struggled with that for a very long. So a lot of daughters come phase of just having moms who have not peace with their failures, because part of being is failing, to fail at things. And when we do not make peace with that, refuse to do the work for ourselves, that it can become up, then I can make it about her. I want to be. And I've seen this also in my women come to me and say, my mom felt with she had me when she was a teenager. And when I became a teenager, she started calling me or a slut, or like these horrible things around, and just sexualizing me. And they only realize now that part of that is her able to make or accept that she has younger, right? And that that high sexuality. So a lot of these things that we others eventually become our inner critic are the things that they're not giving themselves time to process. Because if they process their own guilt, we wouldn't have to carry it. If they
True.
process their own guilt, we wouldn't have shame, we wouldn't have to carry it. Their anger, all the beatings that we got, we wouldn't have gotten that had they processed all the things, especially towards their own mothers.
Yeah, you got beaten a lot, eh? You got beaten a whole lot. You got beaten for everything. I felt
I'm
bad for
like,
you. As I'm
how did
reading the story, I'm like, anything, you just getting a beating. I'm thinking, oh my words, where would I be if it were me? But now tell
exactly?
me, why
I
is
mean, I
it
think
is
about
it mothers why is it mothers to daughters? Does it happen to the sons? The whole downloading of the guilt and the shame and the fear
I
and
think
the whole thing.
yeah, I mean, there are sons who get it. I had
We're losing you, Mo. Mo, can you hear us still? We've lost you. Okay, let's see if we can get her back. Okay, I think she's gonna rejoin. Let's see if it's better.
I can see you now. I wonder if you can
Yeah,
see me.
yeah, we lost
Or-
you. We lost you. I hope your
Yeah.
connection is better.
You hear me now?
Yes, it's so much better now. I hope it stays this way.
Hope so too. Um, yeah, so I was saying mostly is towards daughters because remember when you were a daughter, it's the same way that people say things like, oh, women are mean to each other. Women just don't like each
Mm,
other, right? And
mm,
where's that coming from? I like women. Or, but also when we meet someone who's the same gender as us, they act as a mirror to us. And oftentimes, what they do is show us what we lack in ourselves. This is why women who have low self esteem would be really mean to a woman that has confidence, right? And this doesn't stop when you have a daughter. If you have a daughter and they're outspoken and you've had to suppress parts of yourself to be accepted, to also just perhaps even be in the marriage that you are in right now, that you had to
mm,
perform for it. Here you are, you
mm,
have a daughter outspoken who is just taking up space in the world. That is going to be a trigger. But what
mm,
happens is when moms experience that trigger, they see it as something wrong with this child. I must punish this
mm,
child. But what
mm,
it means, oh, what is it about this child that I desire for myself? Right?
mm,
Do I just confident? Right? What are the steps that I can do towards getting there? And when you
mm,
do that, you realize the jealousy sort of subsides. But most moms don't give themselves that opportunity. It's also the same thing as, this conversation that always happens with educated women and women who are not educated. Like, oh, it's just paper, it's not so important. And there's like
mm,
always this squawk, right? And and that comes from seeing something in someone that you desire for yourself and not acknowledging that, and rather
So,
saying, okay, I'm focus on trying to tear them down so I can feel better about myself. So that is also the thing that happens in the relationship that daughters have with their moms. And because of social sort of indoctrinations, these moms
mm,
can tend to be very nurturing to their sons because they
mm,
had been to cater for men, and they cannot tell the difference that this is a child, right? And they desire that sort of male validation, and it still sort of goes into that relationship and seeps into the relationship that they have with their sons. But it's more intensified in relationships with daughters. But I've also had stories of sons who've
mm.
gotten that of the mother wound, of the guilt, of the anger, of and there's like other dynamics involved in that as well. But it's more intensified when it comes to daughters.
Yeah, no, you say it very well. I can relate to what you're saying. So I think it also goes to the whole understanding that when your mothers and their sons are always, that's why we have mother-in-law issues, because there's just no separation. There's just a specific bond. So you're right. So how they relate to the son and they relate to you as a daughter. And it always comes across as, but I'm teaching you, I'm getting you ready for the world. You're not going to be this
Yeah,
here, you have to be tough or whatever the situation is. When we talk about daughters, it's kind of like more pressure on the mom to say, when you have
yeah,
a daughter, you have to make sure that she's prim and proper. She can tie her shoes, she can wash her panties, like, it's your responsibility. That puts a lot of pressure on the daughter.
yeah,
And I guess it's in how it translates.
yeah. But it also creates the imbalance in the world today. Can you hear me?
Yes, but I think you frozen again.
You're frozen there.
I can hear you.
You were saying,
So we were talking about, I was validating what you're saying with the guys, with the boys, to say the pressure is mostly on the mom. And I think it's how the
yeah,
mom does it.
Yeah, but also it creates this imbalance that we have in the world where women feel like, oh, I'm in relationship with a child. This person cannot do anything for themselves. They're throwing things on the floor. They don't even know how to put clothes in the basket, and it feels like I'm raising a child, and I'm supposed to have a partner, and that from that relationship as well, where moms are raising the daughters and they're just nurturing the son, right? and
Mm.
and not being raised in the same way that the daughter is, then the daughter can never ever have a partner, right? What they get is another son to just take care of. And this is why we hear with many women that get divorced who say, oh my God, getting divorced felt like I was offloading a lot of weight of my shoulders because the person was, I was taking care of them in a way that I was an adult. So as much as there is so much pressure on moms to, and also I feel like society in general has this weird relationship with moms where it's like you are a good individual and you cannot do any wrong and you have this unconditional love, but should anything go wrong, you are going to be blamed as well. So it's this catch 22 where moms are neither great or like not a good place to be as a mom, and this is why it's important for us then to do so we can free ourselves from these social standards that do not serve us or even our children.
Yo, but now, like you're saying it, as a mom, you're expected to have this unconditional, endless love for everybody. Imagine
Like,
now that, I mean, don't get taught about how to give the love. You give it in a tough way, soft way, whatever. But I'm just
okay,
thinking,
now you're the one that's frozen.
am I? Can you hear me now?
Okay, you're back on. I can hear you.
Okay. Am I clearer? Can you hear me? Okay.
Perfect.
So I'm just saying, imagine now when you're expected to have this unconditional love, and at the same time, you're struggling with your own children, and then you get other children to nurture. So either your husband's children or your sister, and all of that. And you're expected to have all of this love. You're not expected to complain because you're a mother. You're supposed to do it anyway and do it right. The pressure becomes greater. But what I want to know is, how does it come into marriages? So, as an adult, how does it show itself up, the mother wound in a marriage?
It really
Or,
the
or for me as an adult?
So the first one is that our relationships, remember there's something called attachment styles, right? So we have the anxious attachment, we have the avoidant, and we have the dismissive avoidant. And what I find is a lot of women are anxious attachment style. And what this means is I just have to try harder. I'm always this, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing right? And this is why there's so that benefit from that anxiety, like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do to keep a man, this is what you're supposed to, there's always these lectures around how to keep men, what to do to become a great wife, and women fall for it because of that anxious attachment. Oh, I just need to do more, I need to perform harder, I need to give him more. And it also shows up in when these men are being abusive, these women then say, well, it must be my fault. It must be because I'm not doing enough. It must be because I'm fat now. It must be because I'm not young anymore. It must be. And then they start scrutinizing themselves and what is it that they need to do better. And the anxious attachment. There are men who are also anxious attachment, but I find that is more prevalent in women where they constantly have to, and this is why so many industries are benefiting from that. Keep yourself
Mm.
younger. God, how do I, and because we want to keep being accepted. If we are this way and we act this way, then we need to be accepted. But there's also the avoidant. I also avoidance who say, I actually do not want to be in any committed because of that fear of out all of it, the dismissive, avoidant, anxious, all fear abandonment. And it's because they
Mm,
experience it with their mom. And our story, when we were talking before this life, in our story is that we were in these situations where we were children and we could not rely on our mothers to show up for us. They were just not there, right? And that in itself is a form of abandonment. And many people are like, oh, but your mom was there. What do you have fear of abandonment? No, because I have been abandoned before. Not just not in the way that you would expect abandonment to take place, but there was emotional abandonment. Also, when I made a mistake, my mother stopped loving me. When I
mm,
didn't do what my mother withdrew her love from me. That in
mm,
itself is abandonment. And here we are as adults constantly afraid that we're going to be abandoned. I need to try harder, or I need to avoid relationships altogether, or I need to play, all nonchalant. I don't care. I don't want a partner. I do not like all these things that we do to try to shield ourselves from that abandonment. So it shows up in just normal relationships and even in friendships. And it shows up
mm,
also in and what I find with married people is that you would find an anxious attachment and an avoidant. So the avoidant is trying to pull away, and the anxious is like, come to me, come to me. And this is a dance that they do for the rest of their lives, or until
mm,
one is like, right. But that just
mm,
continues. And you have these men, people say, oh, he's never going to grow up, he's just like a rolling stone for the rest of his life. And you find that he's just a dismissive avoidant. He's there, I'm not going to commit to anything because people are going to harm you, people are going to do these things, I'm just
mm,
going to put time for the rest of my life. But they also are in that fear of abandonment, so it's manifesting in different ways, but it's the same feeling, literally
ex-
the same, all across the spectrum. And then we have
ex-
things like shame that I spoke about. And what I find is oftentimes, as much as it affects our relationships, it affects how we make, how we move the world. We allow ourselves to also be able to be seen. I mean, I think
mm,
about doing this with you. I just would not. It was just something that I could never even imagine myself doing, because I had it was for me to be and having to do the work of mentoring, saying it's okay, there's nothing wrong with you, right? Focus on the fact, oh, my forehead, my this, as we said, but everyone has their own thing. Everybody has their own thing, and if we're going to focus on those things, then we will never allow ourselves to be seen. So there's that shame, and I find it very prevalent, especially in Black women, where they just shrink workplace. They're not
mm,
taking in the bigger roles. They're just not up in a way that that's I feel powerful and I feel worthy and I feel like I'm enough. And how it shows up and affects our finances, right? And you realize when you deal with that shame is that a whole lot of opportunities for you. Then you're able to also step into opportunity without any fear, or even if fear is there, being able to take that step into it. So a lot of women struggle with that. She comes from our moms. Who do you think you are? Right?
mm,
Look at me and you're like, who do I genuinely think I am? The women in my none of them have experienced what I'm experiencing. Also, I find this also who find great partners, right? Come
mm,
from
mm,
where their moms are divorced, their moms were abused. Now they hide the fact that their husband is loving because
mm,
everyone feel comfortable. They almost as if it's something shameful to have a partner, but because of that shame of, "Oh, there's something with me and I can't in any way wrong And then there's the guilt. And also important to categorize this in emotion, because as we were speaking before this, how people read the book and they're like, oh, I have the same, but I relate to the emotion, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's important for me to also say, well, you're not going to have the same around shame, but you're going to have the same feeling. I'm not enough. I am,
Mm.
there's something wrong with me.
Mm.
I'm disposable. Like the sort of dynamic or the language that happens in your head. And then we have the guilt of just saying, I'm not doing enough. I'm just
Mm.
not enough. I need to try harder. I need to, and that is where the guilt comes from, where we perform for people's love as well,
Mm.
where we say, I just need to buy her the house. Or I just need to
Mm.
build what she needs. I need to take care of my so she can approve of me. I need to, like, I just keep doing these things that she wants. When I'm not doing them, I can't even sit.
Mm.
I me, just relaxing gives me so much anxiety. I feel like I should be doing something. I should do something. I feel guilty, like I didn't do enough. Not, and I say, that is the, why are you feeling guilty about resting? Where does it come
Mm.
from? That much of it also comes from our relationships with our mom. Many of us went out until 8, even on the weekend. Like you
Mm.
were not supposed to wake up by this time to for a girl. There was a saying they used to say in my family, and I'm glad, because my grandmother would say, "Gaji mañana ka-"
Mm.
by the time the sun is out, you're supposed to be up as well, doing
Actually, the
things.
stoop is supposed to be clean. The yard is supposed to be done. The stoop is supposed to be done because you can't do it, with the
Exactly.
sun out.
You're supposed to be doing things by the time, like you're supposed to be done by then. Realize that much of it also comes from there. Just never been allowed to have our bodies, to listen to our own bodies, to rest, to have autonomy, and having these people tell us, to prove that you are worthy, you're supposed to be doing something. And now, because I'm not doing something, then I must be doing something wrong. Then the guilt comes in, right? And I'm just not able to have the rest. And also, that comes with diseases, it comes with hypertension, comes all these things that come up when we become older, right? And then the fear that I spoke about around our anxiety. um, I remember having a conversation with someone and they were saying to me, when I hear a man's voice and it goes a little bit past a certain volume, I just can't. I cannot. I lose my
Mm.
mind, because my dad used to shout at me, and I remember the feeling. And that is
Oh.
also, I remember that I used to flinch when, if someone were to stand up in, like, without announcing that they're going to stand up next to me, I would have to flinch, because I grew
Mm.
up in an environment where you could be hit anytime.
Anytime.
You didn't even know what you did. You were playing, and it turns out there was something wrong with you playing that day, right? And so
Mm.
now, if stand up just like that, please warn me. Tell me that you are standing up so that I do not, like, I'm under attack and have to protect myself. But there's
Mm.
also this in our bodies, and we do not, many people just think it's their nature, but it's not. They're constantly in the fear. And then we have the anger, which I say to people, most people suppress it. And I always advise Black women specifically to befriend their anger. Because I remember listening to, I think this was probably 2 days ago or a day ago, on Twitter, there was a video of a woman saying, "Oh, my husband was cheating on me and brought a girl, and I knew, and the pastor said to me, forgive her and pray for her." And she was praying for the chick, or this other woman.
Woman.
And
Yeah.
prove that she's a good woman. She's a Proverbs 31 woman. And I was like, if she got a little bit, it would help her. It would
Exactly.
just her to get angry and say, not here. You're not going to do that over here. I'm
Mm,
not going to. This is your mess. You fix it. Right. But because a lot of us grew up in houses where our mother was suppressed, we could not be
mm,
angry hit for being angry at your parent, for even talking back because they're angry, right? So we have become women who are passive, even when we're harm, right? Even when we are being treated unfairly in these
mm.
relationships at work, or we just take it that you're supposed to. Kasi pwede ba rin maluhela fast, right?
Mm, mm.
Take the harm to prove that you're a strong woman, right?
Woman.
And what I find with the work that oftentimes with women, I have to coach them into now evoking that anger. Let it burn a little bit. Just finally say, "No, yeah, we're not doing that. You're not
Mm,
you to harm me in this way." So with the other emotions and how it shows up as when we become adult and in our relationships, oftentimes we have to try and do away with the guilt, do away with the shame, do away with the fear, but with the anger that we often have to fight because we grow up in environments that say to us, you
yeah,
can't, you else, but not anger. But anger also has its benefits. It helps us protect ourselves. It helps us.
exactly.
So that is, I don't know if I can explain it in a way that people will. What I try to do is categorize it in emotions. How those emotions dictate how we act and the choices that we make and how we show up in the world, in relationships, and in our work and in our parenting, and process that emotion so that other actions happen following, because the emotion is the thing that that sort of dictates all of those things.
It makes absolute sense. I was just looking out. I know the connection is not clear, but I also know, guys, you are hearing something. So I want to see your comments or your questions or something. But more, I think I can relate. I think the anger also helps you set boundaries. As soon as
True.
when you're still not angry, you're not able to say, I stop here. This is where it ends. This is where it's going to start. This is where it's going to happen. So until you are angry enough, then you're going to be able to set those boundaries for yourself or around yourself, you know. And I think I'm thinking when you were talking about the acceptance issue, you're right. It's so big because work, we are not enough. We are happy to take minutes because at least they're going to think I'm good enough or I can fit into the team or whatever else. The whole notion around makoti and everything, the big thing is about pleasing your mother-in-law. So you get there, you need to work hard, wake up early. Yeah, you can't wake up before your mother-in-law can't wake up before you. You must already be awake, making tea, what, and all you do, and you can see all of these shows and everything that we do, it's all about trying to do more and more and more and more so that you can be accepted, and or you give out money or you do all of those things. So you're right, the society in many many ways perpetuates everything. It makes things even worse because all you need is validation of another mother or another woman, or for them to accept you and say, you're good enough to be in our family, or we get you, or no, we don't like you, we like the previous one, and make you feel rejected again because they are not there. Or it's at work, or it's at church. I don't know, guys, help me. Where else? Where else? I mean, the acceptance thing is big. We do it all the time. Marriages, you want your husband to like you, to post you, because I was so post a limo this status saying because I don't know what's going on because you're not pretty enough or in I don't get it, but it's just that constant wanting to be wanted in. And I think even the guys, the way they do things, you know, the cheating, the everything, it makes you feel again abandoned and neglected to say, but I'm here. Do you not see me? Do you not like me enough? Am I not good enough? Why are you still cheating? It still makes you feel that. And that's probably also other things why your book is relatable, because you're right. The scenes or the events are not the same, but the feeling that you get when you read a chapter is the same. It's what you feel. I think I gave you an example to say you have a chapter in the book talking about when you went to initiation school. I related. I mean, I started feeling like feelings that I felt, man, this feeling is mine, but I'm not used to it. Where does it come from now? But I can relate to say, but it's mine. I think I have felt this way before. But I'm thinking I've never been to initiation school or anything like that. Why would I be understanding where you are? When you talk about your siblings not bringing food, and the first night you're sleeping, and first time you're sleeping hungry, there's no food, and the way you cry yourself to sleep. Okay, I know for sure it wasn't in initiation school, but I know for sure there's a time where I had to cry myself to sleep because I needed, somebody forgot about me, or I expected somebody to remember about me, and they didn't. You understand? So it's in those feelings that you get it. I was in boarding school, and I went to boarding school when I was still in primary. As much as boarding school is great, it removes you from your family. It removes you from experiencing that love every day or that attention. It removes you from connecting with your family. And you're constantly looking, who's coming? When is my mom coming? When they come, what are they bringing me? And I think that's what related me to your story about Inisha. Who's going to come see me? Who's going to come visit me? And what are they going to bring me? If they don't bring you enough things, it hurts you. But don't they know that I need this? And you're just wondering, doesn't she think about what I need? I don't understand. Like you kind of like I say are hoping, but you're not receiving. So yeah, I'm also talking a lot. KK is saying you, you, but I'm just trying to say how much it is so relatable, and you kind of think it's okay. I don't know whether we think it's okay or whether it is what it is. We must just live with it. But I agree with you, the anger is necessary. Then you can set boundaries, and you can also, like you were saying, be okay with whatever. Okay, Mama Zala, you don't like me, it's fine.
Fine.
Okay, boss, you don't like me, it's okay. It is what it is. I'm here for my husband, or I'm here for my career, or whatever the case is. You see, so no, I relate, and I think even people who will read your book, you will get what is happening. It's not even about the event, but then more, how do we heal? Because we are in pain. We want to be liked. When I post videos, I also check how many likes are there, how many people are watching. And when they don't watch, I'm worried. Oh, they don't like me. I personalize the whole thing. But how do we start the journey of healing? We cannot carry on with the pain.
I realize that for most people is just accepting that you have the trauma, because that's where most people struggle. I see people make excuses, try to rationalize it, try to explain it away. It's because she went through these things, and they say this to me still. Oh, but like, have you thought about what your mom went through? I'm like, yeah, I did, but I'm like also thinking about what I went through. So perhaps let me do my own work and allow her to do hers if she wants to do the work. But just allowing yourself to get over that denial around your mother wound, in that this is something that I have, and it's something that I need to start working towards. And the most effective way to do that is self-mothering, and also just understanding that, okay, I did not get adequate mothering. So I was under mothered here. I can't regulate my emotions because I was not taught, right? I am struggling with the shame because no one mirrored my worth to me. No one was saying to me, I love you regardless. It doesn't matter to me if you failed. I still love you. It doesn't matter to me that you look the way you look and people are saying, what, I love you, right? And that reassurance of nothing outside of myself means anything. I'm loved for just being, right? And that also helps when we get in relationships. And I write in my book about how when I went estranged from my family, how I started meeting these people who started mirroring my worth and, no, it's fine, I accept you. Or just seeing it through their actions that, these people love me. They anticipate my needs and they're doing things to make
But
sure.
did you believe it? Did you believe it when you first?
I
Did you
think it's
believe it?
because
Did you dismiss it?
it's because I was already on the self-mothering journey. Before
Okay.
that, I mean, I write in about how I was highly abusive to people who loved me, how I just was constantly this toxic human being to people who that genuinely loved me. So prior to the healing, no, right? But because I was doing the work and I was actively looking for a community to mirror my worth and a community that loves me, that I love, then I was able to recognize it, right? I'm able to take inventory of the in that relationship and going, thank you for that. That heals me, right? Because I'm
Mm,
already on, but community helps. And for some people, the community is something that's going to come after you've gotten the community of a therapist, the community of a coach. So it doesn't necessarily have to be friends, have to be whatnot, but you can start with a coach, with a therapist, and they create that community with you because you start to have the relationship with someone that validates your experience, that says, that happened to you. I understand what you are feeling, right? That is also the mirroring that you need, but also just going deeper into the reparenting work, right?
mm,
Of yeah, because your psyche is stuck somewhere. You either
mm.
stuck as a or you were stuck in that boarding school as an 11-year-old, and I'm
You're right.
stuck in as a 9-year-old. We get stuck somewhere where we were not given the things that we needed to develop in a healthy way. And that is not something to be ashamed of. I remember not so long ago, actually, I was talking to someone and I was like, oh, I'm working with this person that is so emotionally immature. They're in their 60s, but it feels like I'm talking to a 10-year-old, right? And they don't see anything wrong with it. But as someone to work towards self-mothering, you can sense that, the way that I communicate to people, people are constantly complaining that I'm always deflecting. I don't know how to apologize. I don't know how to,
Mm,
what are the things I do to help myself out of that dynamic? So that is
mm,
where the in. But how I do it is focus on those emotions, like I said. How do I reparent myself out of the shame? How do I reparent myself out of the guilt? How do I reparent myself out of the fear? How do I reparent myself into the anger and finding the balance around that? So, the work around reparenting, there's already people who talk about it on social media, but I realize that they focus more on the physical stuff. It's
okay.
important as shelter. They needed to offer us healthy food. They needed
Mm,
to offer, we need rest. And these are the things that you have to do because your body is going to play a part in helping you on that journey. But you also need the emotional part, which is what we lacked from our parents. Many of
mm,
us have our parents say, I offered you shelter. I gave you food and you went to school. What more would you need? Right? You're like, oh, I got all of those physical needs. Now I need the emotional needs, right? And some of these things we can do on our own, but some of them we really need to have a community. And this is where people like me then come into place to say, okay, you are dealing with the shame. How do we then focus on that work of getting yourself out of that, of the whole idea of wanting to be liked, right? I am in the
mm.
stage where and people as, oh, you don't love people, why wouldn't you care? And I'm like, I don't care. I honestly do not care if someone doesn't like me. because there are people who like me and I like myself, right? And they're like, aren't you worried that your mom? And I'm like, my mom has proven to me that she didn't like me for a very long time. And I've made peace with that as well. That, you know what, my mom doesn't like me and she doesn't have to like me. Maybe if we were the same age, she would just like, we would never be friends. She would not like me. And that's okay, right?
But
And
again,
as
your
much
mom
as
is not. But again, your mom is not allowed to accept to. I mean, well, not even allowed, but probably doesn't have the capability to accept to themselves that I don't like her. Even with them, it's the guilt of saying, "This is my daughter. I have a duty to show up as a person that likes her." But they know very well that when they see you, they get triggered, they get frustrated, they get whatever. But it's kind of like, man, this is my daughter. I can't just say I don't like her. That sounds
that's
wrong.
true. If you think about it, there's like different kinds of this world, and the clash that we see also on social media around women who see the world a certain way and women who see the world a certain way. My mother and I are like polar opposites, right? My mom is, oh, to be a good woman you have to be married, you have to serve your husband, your career comes last, and I'm like, no, right? This is what I want to do, and I have this idea and I'm gonna pursue it. And oh, this guy doesn't like me, that's fine. It's so foreign to her. So foreign to her. And she's also the, oh, you can't, what do you mean dating? What do you mean you dated this person, you didn't like them, and then you went and dated someone else and you didn't like them? And then what is that? That is, to her, it's unheard of. You're supposed to
Yeah.
take the first guy that likes you and just do and just build a life with them. And I'm just like, no, I'm gonna choose, right? And that can also be triggering. Who do you think you are,
You
that you think, right? When I didn't have the guts to
are.
choose. Exactly. So there's so many things when you have different personalities with your mom and she's not willing to do the work to meet you where you are, there's always going to be that clash. And you are right in saying it would help us daughters, and it would help them if they admitted, I genuinely just do not like you as a person, right? As opposed to making it seem that there's something wrong with me, right?
Mm,
Because what the is they realize, okay, this child triggers me, she has her own ideas that I'm opposed to. And instead of recognizing that I just do not relate to how she sees the world, I'm going
mm,
to say, wrong with you, no one is gonna love you, which is not true. There are people gonna love you because you don't know everybody, and there are people who think like me, like, it's not true. But
exactly.
speak in absolutes, in like these conclusions. This is what is going to happen to you. You are not going to
Mm,
find someone. Nothing is going to work out in your life because you act the way that you do. And that just comes from that inability to say, I'm triggered. I'm really triggered by this child. And it's either I can do the work of recognizing why I'm triggered by them, or I'm just going to scapegoat them. And that's what most moms do. They just scapegoat you. But for us, the work comes from just reparenting us, giving ourselves the things that our parents did not give us. What are the things that I can do to learn to regulate my own emotions? How can
mm,
I when I am having a difficult emotional experience? What are the tools that are out there? What are the people that are teaching this work saying around how to regulate my own emotions? Also, if I'm an anxious attachment, this relationship with this avoidant, and we're doing this dance of me chasing them and them running away, how do I process that fear of abandonment? And also then give myself the safety that I need, because it's safety that we needed. It's a
mm,
sense of belonging, and we didn't get it, right? I can
yeah.
get that with a coach while I work around approaching relationships, approaching friendships, approaching all these things. So it's just the work of self-mothering. What are the things that I can do to offer myself what my younger self needed now, right? And oftentimes when we have children, it's a bit difficult because we're like, I can't be mothering myself and my children at the same time. It's a lot of
It's
work,
too much.
right?
Too many
But
children in the
I
house.
find that when we exactly and but I find that we focus on ourselves and self-mothering ourselves, the other parts become easy. The children become much easier in a way that if we were focusing on them, it was going to be a much more difficult, as opposed to dealing with our own frustration, dealing with our own anger, and also giving ourselves what we needed so that we don't project all of that onto the children.
So there's quite a few questions. The one said, if I hear you correctly, you also had a bit of bad relationship with your dad. How has that affected you personally and in your relationship with men in general? But hang on, I think there's other related ones. Have you forgiven your mom? Does she know what she did wrong? I want to talk about the mom first before we go to talk about the dad. Let me just read KK's comment. Okay, it's important to learn the importance of learning and understanding our love language and why that love language. It's important. It's mostly driven by the wounds we have. We then find partners that wounds start to bleed. So let's ask about the mom. Does mom
Yeah.
know? Does mom know what she's done wrong? Have you forgiven her? Is there an opportunity also of fixing the issue with mom? Both of you maybe going for therapy.
Yeah, so the first question is, does mom know what she did wrong? I feel like most moms do. We complain all the time, reflect, and they're like, oh, I'm such a terrible mom. Oh, yeah, because I gave you all of these things and now you're unappreciative. But most people that I speak to have had the conversations. This harms me. This does not sit well with me. I don't like that particular thing. So most moms know what they're doing wrong, and most are just set in their ways. I'm the mom. I'm not going to change for a child, right? You're supposed to forgive me the same way I forgave my mom, the same way I stayed in that terrible relationship with my mom. And when it comes to forgiveness, and this is the first chapter in my first book, and it's called Decentering Forgiveness, right? I find that people fixate on the forgiveness a lot because people think the forgiveness is the healing. They think when I forgive my mom, then I'll be healed. But it's not going to heal the limiting beliefs that you've developed as a result of that trauma, the feelings that you are not enough, the shame, the guilt. It's not going to resolve your relationship issues. It's not going to resolve your issues with money in regards to that relationship. So there's so many things that having a mother wound entails that forgiveness cannot fix. What forgiveness often does is it creates a clean slate for the relationship, right? But there are relationships that the other person is just like, I'm so stuck on being abusive and I'm not even hearing you. I'm not going to do that. I don't care that. And giving them forgiveness does not, right? And we think to ourselves, oh, the forgiveness will release me from the anger. And I say this process without having to forget. Because what it does is send the person that has harmed you. Now you have to understand what they want. You give them grace. And what I find in my work is that they neglect their own. They're caught up on what mom went through, what to show her grace, to understand, show her, and they do that for themselves, right? So when I say that we need to center forgiveness, I'm saying it's time to focus on you, right? And when people ask me, have you forgiven your, it's not even in my vocabulary. And I'm also not angry at my mom anymore. Like I'm not, because I've processed the anger. I also not center her. her experience. I don't think her trauma needs my trauma. I think that part of the work is hers to do. Like if she wants to heal, she can forgive herself. People make jokes about uh, this saying, "Oh, you need to forgive yourself." And then, but what did I do? Why do I need to forgive myself? And I think that's where the work comes in. When you say, if I harmed someone and I'm the one with the guilt around the actions I did towards that person, I have to forgive myself. They have to focus on their recovery because I've harmed them. And that's what I've been doing. And I find that is the most conducive and the most um smart way to go around healing, because it decenters the other person and it focuses on you. So to answer the question, I genuinely do not think about forgiveness. I'm not angry at my anymore. I've seen her, I think, at my younger sister's graduation, and I was cordial with.
Oh no, we lost Mo again. Okay, let's try and get her back. It was getting nice and warm. Okay, we're gonna get her back. But I just want to also just go through your comments. Um, I think I read them all. Okay, I read yours about love languages. I think you're right. So sometimes we kind of like think we have a specific love language, but have never really interrogated where it comes from. So maybe this is it. It's part of you wanting to, you know, nurture yourself again, your inner child just getting stuck in there, and you needing to go back and validate yourself, or, in that thing. If you would never really got held, if you never really got loved, if you never got gifts, then you come back and say, all right, this is my love language. Okay, we got you back.
Fine.
Just want to do me say it's tough question. It requires a lot of introspection and understanding that you as a person is valid, and that others are only expanding on your validity. Cam says, so forgiveness, so good. Forgiveness is not healing. I think she's agreeing. That's deep. Um, yeah. So I was also thinking as you were saying it, that when you start focusing on them to say this is what they've gone through, doesn't that build onto the guilt? Doesn't that now borderline the guilt of you feeling like, okay, maybe they went through trauma. I must try and understand their point of view. Now it's about you feeling guilty about being angry at them. Now you're going to focus on understanding them and trying to validate them, and that builds on the guilt. The second thing that came to my mind
True.
when you
It
were
does.
saying it, yeah, the second thing was, um, I think when you spoke about you need to focus on yourself. Another problem is you may forgive them, but they're not willing to re-nurture you. So they're going to remain the same. So it doesn't remove the comments that they've always been saying. If they've been saying to you, I don't know what you've been doing with this course, I don't know what, so it doesn't remove that. You can forgive on your own. But the next person who doesn't want to account for what they've done, or who doesn't want to do the healing for themselves, will just continue being themselves. So they continue to wound you over and over again. And I'm just wondering, how far does that forgiveness go?
Yeah, that's why I coach people to decenter it all together. And what I find is when we do the work and also do the work of processing the anger and perhaps the resentment, is they do not feel those resentments anymore. So people can say, "Oh, you are forgiven finally," but they never allow, or they were never in the state focusing on the parent. Like, this is what they went through, I'm supposed to give them. And also other people, then I realized that people who get on forgiveness tend to reconcile prematurely with very harmful parents, right? Because they feel like that's the indication that they've healed. If I've forgiven and I've reconciled and I'm in the relationship with them, that means that I'm healed. But that's often not the case. Some people's healing is going to be outside of that relationship. And perhaps they may even realize that I don't want that relationship in my life. I know people who say to who come to, I want to fix my relationship with my mom and focus on you, right? Let's focus on you. Let's focus on repairing you. Let's focus on giving you what you needed. And they realize much later on, they're like, don't want to go back to that relationship. And I was getting on it in the beginning is because I was still hoping that she would. The thing that I need is with her, that it's only her who can give it to me. And now that I realize that I can get it without her, I realize I open that avenue back into my life, I will just be opening myself up to more. And I realize that anymore. Like, I'm in a good space in my life, and that's no place for. So the whole idea of forgiveness, when people say, "Oh, is there like a chance to go to therapy with them?" I don't care to do that. God, and it's not even coming place of, oh, your mom. I love. I read my book, realized that I struggled time to get to a place where I'm like, you are really terrible for me, not a good person for me, and I wanted to see her in a good light for a very long time. I mean, I went strange at what, like 8:30. I was already 30 when I gave myself a permission to say I can't do this anymore. So I genuinely love my mother and relationship with her, but I also realized that relationship would just be opening me. Not because I have siblings. I have seven, and four of them are younger than me. The stories they still have,
Are the
I
same.
I do not want to be a part of that. And listen, people can say, "Oh no, I mean, if you don't love, we can love people, but allowing them to love us." And that is where I am with my relationship with my mother.
It reminds me also of people who say they've got mom issues or dad issues. I think what you're saying there around, do you really need them to come back here? What do you want them to say? How is that going to help you? I remember a story, or I remember also a video that I saw of a lady who was asking that, do you really want the person who hurt you to come back and tell you that they have hurt you? Do you not know that they have hurt you? You know, how do you wait? Are you waiting for that to, for them to come back and say, "Oh yes, I recognize that I've hurt." Then you're going to be free and unhurt. Do you not know that you were hurt? Don't you just want to just set yourself, thought that out? So there's people who also are still waiting. I want my mom to say I'm sorry. I want her to tell me she loves me. I want to hear her say this and this. And I guess that's what you're saying. It's not, it may not even happen. It's not going to happen. You have to nurture yourself into being okay and then move on from there. I think let's answer the question about your dad, to say, has that the relationship with your dad wasn't well, how has it affected your relationship with men in general?
So my relationship with my dad, I wrote in my book about how I idealized him for a very long time. I think when you're a child and you're going through the trauma, what you want to believe is that at least me and there's nothing wrong with me, right? So I was in that state with my dad, also because my dad did not live with us. He would come home once a month, and there were elements of abuse, but I think I idealized him a lot. And because I idealized him a lot, and also because the abuse wasn't constant like that with my mom because he didn't live with us, is that there wasn't much trauma there. Even when I went into the work of doing of healing my father wound, I realized that the wound is not as deep as I thought it would be. And I think part of it was that he was not constantly present.
I think I can relate to that. I think we lost Mo again. But I can relate to the fact that sometimes you don't have a present father, but you have probably a present mother, but you don't really have issues with your father. Like you don't have issues. Many kids do that. You go around, you go into a space where you're looking for your dad and you've got no hurt, no matter that they were absent. I guess it's about also because there was no direct action, there was no abuse, there was no confrontation, there was nothing. So you don't have feelings or bad feelings or wounds towards them because they were never there. So the first time you're going to see them, because I think I wondered a lot about this Kumbule Kaya situation where kids see their dads and like, this is the best time of my life. I've never felt like this. And you wonder, and the parents are, your mom is mad, like, but this guy is been gone, never even asked for you. But as a child, you don't have any bad feelings towards your father or your dad, and it's because they were absent. So you haven't really downloaded any wounds or frustrations. So yeah, I see we've lost Mo again, but we've also been speaking for over an hour. So I'm going to see if we can get her back. And yeah, I'm seeing your comments. You're saying they refuse to accept or acknowledge what they did wrong. Definitely. Or they're very defensive. Or, like to Mo's point, they're kind of saying, but what do you mean? I did everything for you. I sacrificed this. I was working so many jobs. I never lived here because of this. I was protecting you. So there's always a reason or some validation or defense that is there that makes you question, like, why are you even complaining? So most definitely. So yeah, forgiveness is not easy. Oh, it's easy. Oh, cool. I don't know, but okay. I guess so. Okay, we have Mo. But yeah, I think we answered it, Mo. I just want us, we've been talking like more than an hour. So I want to know, you do coaching for people. So how do people access you for one-on-one coaching?
So all the links are on my social media. So Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you just go to my profile, Moshitadi Lehlomela, then you just click on the link and then it shows you all the details. It takes you to a scheduling website where you can then schedule the date and then make the payment and then get a one-on-one coaching with me. And I also have an online course that people who do not want to do the whole face-to-face talking thing can do. And yeah, and then I have the books that people can buy and start their journey from there.
Yes. I got my book at Take a Lot. It was very quick. It was like available any day. But I would like to gift to people here the book. So you can either tell me quickly if you're interested, and I'll give you my email address, and so we can exchange emailing address, postal addresses. I'm definitely not giving mine up. Sorry, guys. I'll get you new ones. I know it looks clean. I read it, guys. I'm just good at managing books. Okay, give me credit. So, but Mo, thank you so much. This was very, very, very informative. I think I've healed just talking to you. I've healed reading your book. And now I've healed just listening to what you were saying. You said so many things. We raise daughters, but we nurture our sons. I have sons, I guess that's what I'm doing. But you don't think about it that way when you do it. I mean, that forgiveness is not really healing. You can forgive, but you still need to heal. And you may not be ready to go for that Christmas and Easter and whatever, because you'll get triggered again but you don't have to sit in the guilt of saying everybody's going home. Why are you not going home? There is a reason, because you're still healing, you're still nurturing yourself. Yes, I
No,
think I
I
can hear. Yeah.
and Mother's Day is also coming, so people are around that, wondering if they have set image, they create an idea of who their mom is. So just part of doing that work on nurturing yourself around that. It looks like sitting through the day and recognizing that today it'll be over tomorrow. And the next day is a different. You don't have to deal with that. Like
True. Mother's Day is coming. A lot of people are going to get triggered again. So look after yourselves, guys. Do what you need to do. No pressure. Remember everything we said, that was said and that Mo taught us about today, which is very, very great. So thank you, Mo. Thank you so much for your time. It's almost even 9 o'clock. Thank you. And thank you
I have
guys for listening and for your patience. I know we had not so clear connection, but I am 100% sure you stuck it out. So thanks for your patience, because this was great. We will follow you, Mo. I'm already following you. And yeah, find Mo everywhere. Find Mo everywhere. But thank you so much, and good night, guys.
nights. Bye bye.
Bye.